Have you ever wondered how a mountain of gold could destroy an empire? In the 16th and 17th centuries, Spain became the most powerful nation on earth. Its empire stretched across continents, from Europe to the Americas, Africa, and Asia. The secret to its power, an unimaginable flood of gold and silver from the New World. When explorers like Hernán Cortés in Mexico and Francisco Pizarro in Peru discovered vast treasures, they transformed Spain almost overnight. Kings like Charles I and Philip II used this newfound wealth to fund massive armies, powerful navies, and build breathtaking palaces. From the Americas, treasure fleets sailed to Seville, the empire's bustling commercial heart, creating an economic boom that made Spain seem invincible. But beneath this glittering surface, a dangerous paradox was taking shape. The very gold that built the empire was also planting the seeds of its downfall. So, what went wrong? Economists and historians point to a classic trap. Spain's total reliance on American bullion created massive inflation. Think about it. When there's suddenly a lot more money chasing the same amount of goods, prices skyrocket. This price revolution, as it's called, wrecked the Spanish economy. Local artisans, farmers, and merchants couldn't compete. Why buy a locally made chair when a cheaper one from abroad was available? Why grow food when you could just import it? Spain's cities became showcases of opulence, filled with imported luxuries, while the countryside was crippled by heavy taxes and neglect, leading to widespread poverty. This river of gold also fueled Spain's endless military ambitions. The crown financed decades-long wars across Europe against France, the Ottoman Empire, and most famously, in the Netherlands, the 80 Years' War drained resources, and the legendary defeat of the Spanish Armada in 1588 marked the beginning of the end for Spanish naval dominance. The empire was so focused on external conquest that it completely neglected its internal development. It was a cycle of dependency. Fight wars, get more gold, fight more wars. Let's talk about where this wealth came from. The silver mines of Potosi, in modern-day Bolivia, were one of the richest sources of treasure in human history. But this wealth was built on immense suffering. Indigenous populations and enslaved laborers were forced to work in brutal, deadly conditions to extract the silver that filled the king's coffers. This flood of precious metal caused severe inflation back in Spain, crippling domestic industry and making the country more and more dependent on imports for things it could have easily produced itself. A huge, inefficient bureaucracy grew, siphoning wealth away from productive ventures and into lavish consumption in warfare. But here's the fascinating twist in this story. While the economy was crumbling, Spanish culture was exploding. This period is known as the Siglo de Oro, or the Golden Age. It gave us literary giants like Miguel de Cervantes, who wrote Don Quixote, and incredible painters like Diego Velázquez. The art, architecture, and literature from this era are still celebrated today. But the society that produced these masterpieces was incredibly fragile. The nobility lived off royal pensions and land rents, looking down on commerce and innovation. The rigid class system made it nearly impossible for anyone to climb the social ladder. The monarchy hoarded all the wealth and power, creating an illusion of grandeur that masked a stagnant economy. By the late 17th century, the cracks were too big to ignore. The empire was in clear decay. Spain suffered repeated military defeats. The silver from the Americas began to dry up, and the economy, which had never been diversified, simply couldn't hold up. Corruption was rampant in the royal administration, and the neglect of agriculture and industry left the country weak and unable to cope with shocks. Other European powers were catching up and surpassing them. Countries like England, France, and the Dutch Republic were investing their colonial profits differently. They built up their commerce, their shipbuilding industries, and their local economies. Spain, on the other hand, had spent its fortune on immediate consumption, a luxurious court life, and those endless, costly wars. It was a classic case of missed opportunities. By the 18th century, Spain was drowning in debt. Its population was declining, and it began losing territories across the globe. The story of Spain's golden age is a powerful lesson. It shows how a massive influx of natural resource wealth can be both a blessing and a curse. It fueled incredible ambition and created a legacy of art and culture that still inspires us. But without smart investment in industry, innovation, and its own people, that wealth created a brittle empire destined to shatter. The treasures of Potosi, the triumphs of Philip II's court, and the masterpieces of the Siglo de Oro all carry a dual meaning. They represent both a magnificent splendor and a stark warning. Unchecked wealth, disconnected from a sustainable economy and a fair society, can lead to ruin. Today, the rise and fall of the Spanish Empire continues to fascinate us, offering a vivid example of how history, economics, and human ambition are intertwined. It's a timeless story that reminds us, even in our modern world, to think critically about where wealth comes from and, more importantly, where it goes. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as fascinating as I do, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more dives into history's greatest paradoxes. See you in the next video.